Nice.
All right, Moose. I think
Nice.
we are live as I usually do. I usually am a second or so late. Thank you, Moose, for being here on TBC this week.
You're welcome. Thank you for
Uh,
having me.
I'm very excited for having you. You, as a couple other guys I've talked to so far, have been on the I don't even know what you call prepubescent maybe episodes that we did as a podcast that were a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Never made it to air because of the production on those things. I just couldn't do. It was impossible for
It's all
me.
good.
This is easier. I can just record it and then we're good to go. Um, so thank you. I am so happy you're here. Um, you first introduce yourself. Who are you,
I,
Moose?
I am Moose Matthew Gronholm. Everybody knows me as Moose. From Chicago originally. Moved to Cincinnati about 2011. Um, enjoy a good book. Enjoy writing, music. Um, all that stuff kind of keeps me together and sane.
So you do a part-time gig too. You write for an online,
CincyMusic.com.
right?
Yeah, I do all kinds of stuff. Just mainly album reviews, and the occasional uh, John Prine remembrance. Uh, Put that up probably about a week ago, and have been through all of this quarantine stuff, shelter in place. I've been doing a lot of that, although I am still full time working as well.
Where do you where did you learn to write? Because I mean, it's doesn't just. I mean, you're talented. How do you get that?
I don't know. I'm high school was fun.
Mm-hmm.
I used to partake in some magical cigarettes, if you will,
Nice.
before high school, before my day would start. And my first period, my first class was creative writing. So I would just come up with this stuff. And I don't know where it was coming from. The earliest memory I have of writing anything would be at 8. I was given at 8 years old. My mom gave me like a journal diary / thing, and ever since 8 years old, I've been keeping one
That's
pretty nonstop.
that's awesome. Yeah, I kept a journal like from 2000 no 1998 till about 2003 or 4, and it was I love to go back and look at them now. I don't know why I don't. I think Facebook kind of took that away, took that kind of that role from me. um but what I was going to say is I actually was there was a an online paper, I guess you could call it, that I was on years and years ago, started by a guy, good friend of mine named Mike Altman, and it was called the Queen City Forum. And I would write politics. And actually, I remember one of my big articles was about, I don't remember what the heck, who was running vice mate with Kerry? What was his name?
Oh my gosh.
Forgetting his name. Blowing it.
I can't remember either. I'm drawing a blank.
Yeah.
We're
And
live on Facebook, so somebody should say something.
that's right. Anyways, I wrote an article about him. But anyways, because I was so into music and we both share the love for music, I said, "Hey, let me just get the right to be our like music guy, so I can call these guys coming into town on tour and just talk to them." So, anyways, I was really into a band called the Gabe Dixon Band at this time, and Mike's like, "Go ahead, do it." So, with this press pass kind of thing, I got to call the Gabe Dixon Band, talk to the lead singer that I really liked, and man, what you do is a tough job to describe music on an album. And that's why I said, "How did you get that?" Because it doesn't just come to you. It is a tough thing to
No.
do.
It's not the stuff I was writing. So in 1988, I was 8 years old writing in a journal. That's not album reviews.
Right.
That's me
Practicing.
just coming up with random stuff, right? So in 2011, I had never even imagined doing this. Like, this was never even on my radar. And then Kelly Thomas had mentioned to me at the Whispering Beard, probably that year, would you want to do just a little blurb on the Whiskey Bend Valley Boys? And because she said, I just couldn't, I just can't, I don't know how to do it for them, for their style. And I said, heck yeah. Did that one, and then from there, here we are, 9 years later, and still doing them sporadically. I have people reach out, a lot of local musicians that we know, they'll reach out and ask if I can do it, if they have an album coming out. And it's just, you listen to the album over and over again and write what you feel.
That's cool. It's hard.
What did it do to you? And what did it do? How do you feel about it? You know, your first introduction, like that's usually what I do with the writing end of things.
I'm really impressed. I think it's a tough job.
Thank you.
You do a great job.
Thank you.
Other thing I just want to mention Moose for real quick is Moose gives me a weekly text just saying happy beautiful Friday. And I'll tell you, sir, I don't know how many years I've got these texts. This comes once a day on a Friday, every Friday, and it's just a beautiful thing. And I just want to thank you for that.
Oh, you're very welcome.
That little gesture makes my week. You reaching out, we may not talk for a month or two, and then I get that little text every single week. So,
and really that is that's exactly the point of it. I mean, I could go months without speaking to own family members, and just knowing that they get that for my end, and for the fact that it does that for you on my end is, I mean, that makes it worth it. That makes it me know that it should keep going. So.
It's that connection. It means something. It's simple, but it means a lot. Yep.
Yeah.
All right, let's jump in. That's the road. All right.
Yeah. Yeah, Moose. We have the same copy.
Yeah. Yeah. I'll be honest. I had to buy this copy. For this show because I gave the other ones away. I give this book. I've given it away a few times. I've actually given it away, and the people have not read it, and I've actually taken it back because I'm like, if you're not going to read it, I'm going to give it to somebody that's going to read it. But this is the third time through. And you've read it more than once, maybe?
I've read it. This is my second time.
Second time through.
But the first time stuck like a great song. So,
but wasn't it different? Was it different the second time? No.
I kind of, yes. In that, like, I actually think I read this the second time through. I think I read this a lot faster. I've never read a book in 2.5 days.
You can do that with Cormac McCarthy. Once you get used to it. Okay. Right. Do you agree? Like at first, Cormac McCarthy, if you have never read Cormac McCarthy, really nothing on the page except periods.
Right.
There is no other punctuation whatsoever. And so when you first read it, and he's very descriptive, I think the first book I read by him, I think, was called Sutri, which is still one of my favorites. If you've not read that, Moose, you've got to read it.
I'm going to. It's on the docket.
Good. It takes a second to get used to it, but when you do learn how to read McCarthy, you can fly through it. And here's what I think I did, Moose. I love this book. And when you wanted to do it, I was very excited. I've given this book to people because I loved it. But I think because you can fly through it, I think I did the first 2 times. I still loved it. I loved it. But the third time I read it, because I'm getting ready for our conversation, I don't find I'm a slow reader as it is. So when I say fly through, I'm still not flying through. But man, there was a lot I missed. And that happens with every book I reread. I mean, really, that's not just because of Cormac McCarthy. There's a lot I missed, and I'm so glad I read it this third time, which is crazy. I really missed a lot that I didn't know. And I just want to shout out one more thing before I move on, because I want to say this before. Cormac McCarthy, I didn't get into reading for those. I've read my whole life, but it was maybe a book a year. But it wasn't until I was a lot older that I got into literature and stuff like that. And Cormac McCarthy came around maybe my late 20s, early 30s, and he really just and he just hit me. His writing, everything about it. He really looks at life and the question of life and the frailty of life, I think. And so anyways, I took this name Cormac. I wanted it to be my son's name. I'd found out it
That's
wasn't
right.
his. Yeah, I found out it wasn't his real name. He changed it later in life also. I didn't realize that then.
Hmm.
But my wife at the time, Cormac's mom, said, I'll make the deal. I'll name him Cormac, but we can't call him Cormac. So I changed the spelling to Cormic, and that was the way we got the deal through.
Nice. Nice.
That's how
Nice.
it worked.
I like that. I like that.
So
Yeah. Well, for me, for this, like I'm not a fast reader either. Not at all. Like I take my time. I figured I had just finished Handmaid's Tale. So I was like, all right, this is going to give me 2 weeks and I should be done with it. Again, I don't read fast. He just sucked. It's the same thing that happened the first time. From the first paragraph, I was just locked in, and not too many people do that. No. And I was just, again, it's the same feeling I had, like, I don't know, 8, 9, 10 years ago, the first time I read it.
I agree.
Same feeling I had reading it.
It's not like there's not a lot of books like this. I that's why I think I recommend it. And I recommend it to a lot of people that aren't big readers. And every time I've done that, they've come back to me like, "Whoa, what am I missing?" And I'm like, "Well, not all books are like this, but
right. Very few.
They love
very few.
Yep. All right, I'm going to read the back cover just to give people a chance. To see what's going on. So it says, a father and his son walk alone through burned America. Nothing moves in the ravaged landscape save the ash on the wind. It is cold enough to crack stones, and when the snow falls, it is gray. The sky is dark. Their destination is the coast, although they don't know what, if anything, awaits them there. They have nothing, just a pistol to defend themselves against the lawless bands that stalk the road, the clothes they are wearing, and a cart of scavenged food and each other. The road is a profoundly moving story of a journey. It boldly imagines a future in which no hope remains, but in which the father and his son, each the other's world entire, are sustained by love. Awesome in the totality of its vision, the road is an unflinching meditation on the worst and the best that we are capable of. Ultimate destructiveness, desperate tenacity, and the tenderness that keeps two people alive in the face of total devastation. Pretty cool. What do you think? Anything you got to add to that, Moose?
That about sums it up. I think we can go home and
we're done.
We're done.
Yeah. Right.
I mean, it literally that's it. That's the book.
I agree. So, some books do a fair job, like, hey, here's a little teaser. The feeling, I don't know who wrote that back cover, but the feeling of it, they cover really the deepest parts of it. And when you don't know that till you read it, but man, definitely the word hopelessness. Their lives, what was it saying? Their world and each other's world entire, of course. I mean, that's the only reason they're living. So let's go off. First question, Moose. What happened?
To the world?
Yeah.
That in which we're set, I have no idea. And that's the beauty. Like so when I finished it both these times, and I already knew that going into the second read. But the first time, and I remember when I finished that first time and I closed it and I'm like, he never said what happened. You just know that there was fire and that's pretty much it. And then now it's cold and they're going south. And I love that. I love that.
Too.
This is the same guy who I've heard, he said, if you're going to introduce a shotgun on a mantle, you better use that shotgun in the next chapter or whatever. So like for him to not say at any point what happened, you forget about that. Like I remember reading it the first time and closing the book and saying, well, he never said what happened.
Right. Right. The first time through, you're waiting for the explanation. You think
Yeah.
it's coming. Yes, you think it's coming. And that, I think because he starts out, you don't know what's going on. He does do some backtracking. He does go back and tell you about what happens to the wife. He
Right.
does tell you about the moment it happens, and I'm going to talk to you about that in a second.
Yeah.
So you think later in the book he's going to wrap up that story with what exactly, and it never comes, which I think
Sure.
is, like you said, is like you close the book and you're like, but you don't even care by that point.
No, because it's the magic trick, right?
Mhm.
I mean, here in one hand, I have what I could give you, but over here in this hand, I'm doing something completely different, and I'm bogging it down with there's the Papa and the boy's story
Right.
of
And I
wherever they're going for
don't
whatever.
want your mind thinking about that stuff.
No, that's the magic trick. That's the
Yeah.
beauty of it. You don't realize it until you begin the book and when you're done with it.
Right.
Because in the middle, you're just the story's captivated. You're just
captivated.
enthralled by what they're going through.
There is a question I have, and it's a legitimate question. Do you, Moose? Not
Yeah.
to throw you up, because, and I
No,
don't
that's
know,
good.
but there's a question that when he goes to the window, when you think it, I think everybody thinks it might be a nuclear bomb, probably, but you don't know for sure. He sees a slight flash out of the window, and his wife goes, "What's happened?" And this is a legitimate question. I don't understand it, and I did not Google it, just so we could answer it or see if you had it today. He starts the bathtub. Do you remember that? Do you remember this part?
Ooh,
He says
vaguely.
he sees
Help me out.
the light go off, and I should have marked the page. He sees the light go off in
Okay.
the wind, and he feels a little bit of like the post of like maybe a possible nuclear explosion, and then he starts a bath, and she says, "You're starting a bath?" And he said, "Yeah, for you." And
Right.
she was
I
pregnant,
remember that.
and I'm like,
Right.
would that protect her somehow? I don't get that. I really don't understand the bath part.
Or at that point, do we know there's fire? Because let's say it was just a tremor. It could have just been an earthquake, right? So I don't know what getting in a bathtub would do, or maybe being in your bathroom is a good place during an earthquake. I have no idea. Probably not. I don't think.
Here,
But
let me see what it says. It says the clock stopped at 1:17. This is all we know. Clock stopped at 1:17. A long sheer light, and then a series of low concussions. So I teach nuclear war and the Hiroshima, and that's mainly what it is this blinding light, and then the concussions afterwards that people face miles off. He went to the wind. He went to the window. "What is it?" she said. He didn't answer. He went into the bathroom and threw on the light switch, but the power was already gone. A dull rose glow in the window glass. So rose, little bit of light. He dropped to one knee and raised the lever to stop the tub, and then turned on both taps as far as they would go. She was standing in the doorway in her nightwear, clutching the jamb, cradling her belly in one hand. "What is it?" she said. "What is happening?" "I don't know." "Why are you taking a bath?" "I'm not." And that's where they land it. And that just 3 times I've read it, and like I said, I could Google it, but I just wanted to see if you remember that part, and like, what the heck? What's a
but that to me is the beauty. I mean, yeah, sure,
I agree.
we got Google right at our hand, right? Like with our phone. But I don't want to know what he meant or what he told some interviewer years after he wrote the book, or even while on tour for the book. Like maybe somebody pointed that out to him and he said, "Well, this is what I meant." Cormac McCarthy, I probably doubt he said anything about it, but
probably not.
I mean, but you never know what somebody might say years later. What I believe, I mean, that could mean, well, what caused, if it's an explosion, what caused the explosion? Are we already in sort of an end of days and stuff's just going off and exploding? I mean,
true.
Well, you never know.
Now that you say that, wow, you brought in and I love, that's why I love these conversations. Did this just happen as an event and boom, one thing leads to all this devastation? Or was it a slow crumble of society and this was just one of the end things?
You have
That's
no
a good
idea.
point. No.
The only thing you can do is piece together like the little bits.
Right.
And they are just like, they're not even Hansel and Gretel's paper trail. They're
No.
like minuscule bits,
Minuscule,
purposely
a
done.
word here or there, and that's it.
Yeah.
And let's go to that. Let's just let's take those bits. What does the world look like at this point? What are the father and son that you said they're headed south? That's all we know. What does the world look like, and how do we know it?
Well, I don't know specifically where in the book. I know that he's sort of like a painter. He's painting you this scenery of just complete devastation.
Yep.
I mean, at one point he says there's literally a body that has been melted into the asphalt.
Right.
And so picture that, a human
leather.
body
A lot of
melted
human
inside of
bodies
a road.
or
Right.
turned to leather.
Right.
Many times turned to leather so you can see the heat, right?
And just like sometimes when I think it's snowing, it could also be ash because there's lots of fire. So just like a gray, desolate, sort of like a gray day here in Cincinnati, but like 1,000 times worse because there are no leaves ever.
Why? Yeah, every tree is dead.
Every tree, everything is dead. There
Everything.
is no life.
That's
like that.
That takes a second for me to get to, but he does a good job of slowly putting it in. Like, okay, they're out by themselves. They're trying to survive. All right, survivalist stuff comes in. You know, you got to learn how to hunt. Wait, no, nothing's alive. Nothing. No birds, no squirrels, no fish. Everything is dead.
Well, right,
for a few humans, maybe.
So what makes me, it's like more of a progression for us to get at the clock stopping at 1:17, right? But we don't know that because the writer doesn't give us that. Right. So we're left to just make it up, assume, and you can let your imagination wander wherever you want. Like, you know, you can think of a nuclear bomb, or you could think of just like the way, and neither one of these are right or wrong. It doesn't really matter because you're just assuming. You're just making up your own assumption. I just think that to get to the clock stopping, and now he's like sort of OCDing making a bath because it's the only thing he knows what to do at that time that might calm him.
Or just put her in. You know, he's thinking, hey, a fire's coming. As we saw from the rest of the book, is he's a protector. You know, he does all the work to protect, and it's really funny. I'm going to jump ahead just for a second because once he gets sick, and we'll talk about this later, but once he gets sick, is the first time that we see the boy go out and collect firewood. You don't hear about that ever. His boy lays there. He gets sick for the first time, and then his boy leaves to go get fire. So he is the protector, like you said. So maybe the bath is there to somehow just thinking, hey, I don't know what's coming, but this is going to
right. Or it's got nothing to do with anything, and he's only doing it because it's the only thing he knows what to do at that time. Because some, pardon the French, but some bad shit's going down, and I don't know what to do. So I'm gonna make a bath right now because I don't know what to do.
Right.
I don't know what to do.
Nobody does.
Right.
All right, let's go to a next question.
Sure.
Why no names?
Oh, I love that. I love that. That's the second thing. Probably never knowing really what happened to the world and nobody having any names are my two favorite things in the entire book. I don't know why. I think because it makes you as a reader probably focus in more on what's happening to them and around them, and giving them a name might take away from that. Maybe, I don't know. That's,
I thought too, is the relatability factor is if you gave the dad a name of John and the kid a name of Sam, that's not you anymore. Whereas if I see dad and son, it could be me. You see what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah.
Yeah,
In
and
both those roles, it could be your dad and you as the son, or
exactly. Or
yeah,
somebody I know, or somebody I can picture better.
exactly.
But when
Exactly.
you make them an other with another name, but if you just call him, he calls him just for those of you that haven't read it, the dad's name is Papa. He calls him Papa, and the son's name is the boy.
Right.
The interesting part about it is every there's not many other characters, but Eli, the characters that do come in, they do have names. So it's not like he's going with just no names.
Right.
He's going with names, but just the main characters, the boy and his papa, doesn't
But
have names.
skipping ahead a little, they do meet that old man, but you never get a name from him. Am I correct on that? Because Eli's at the
That's
end.
no, that's Eli.
Okay, that is Eli. All right.
Eli's the man that they meet. That man, what an interesting character. He's the guy, and let's go to Eli real quick.
Okay.
Eli says,
We're there. We're in it.
we're there. We're in there. Eli says, here's the quote. There is no God, and we are its prophets.
Yeah.
So midway through, they meet this guy on the road. He's an older man. They realize he's not really a threat, and they're sitting around a fire. They're actually giving him food, which is not usually common. We're not running into somebody is not common, but they're giving him food. They're taking care of him, and he says, "There is no God, and we are its prophets." And I thought that was really a standout quote. What do you take
Yeah.
from that?
Yeah. I mean, I think that's great. There is no God, and we are its prophets.
We are the proof.
I mean,
We are the proof
yeah.
that if there was a God, this hell could not happen. Pretty much,
Right.
we are speaking the word of a God that can't exist because this hell around us is
Yeah.
crazy.
And I'm not much for that kind of stuff, but like when you read it in the context of what they're going through, they've been going through so much, and then somebody says that, and or Cormac throws it in there, and you're like, yeah,
Yeah, but
yeah,
then
yeah,
Papa comes back and says, "But what if I said he is a God?" He's talking about his son, and he says that. What if I said he is a God? That I
right.
still don't know what he's trying to convey
Oh, I
there.
love that.
Yeah, I do too.
I mean, I don't know. I think we're just trying to say that maybe in some Greek mythology sort of a way, or a Egyptian sort of a way, ancient Egyptian sort of way, he is one of these gods instead of
Right.
a god. Rather than being just God, he is one of many gods. I just think that's great.
Yeah, I read. I
And I have
remember
no
reading.
idea if that's true or not.
No, well, that's what's awesome about this
Right.
is, I remember reading long ago, is they said that somebody had brought up on maybe it was Goodreads or something that said uh, the father was trying to present him as a savior type figure, and that's why throughout the book, another thing that gets mentioned between the boy and the father is the father says, "You carry the light."
Right.
You are the
Right.
light carrier. We are the good guys, which is mentioned
We're the good
over
guy.
and over again. And you are the carrier of the light. Don't ever lose the light. And so you take that his father keeps saying that about him and to him. And then he tells this one other person that they actually have a long conversation with throughout the whole
Yeah.
book. And he
Yeah.
pretty much says, "What if I tell you my son is God?" It's part of me says, like, is that just a nothing part of the book, a conversation that just kind of is talking back to this Eli guy? Or is part of me, the other part of me is saying, is like, is that the climax? Is that really telling us the truth of the book? Is that what, you know what I mean? Where he's trying to make it this much more. I don't know.
I don't know either.
Could be. It could
I don't.
be.
But this is a Cormac McCarthy way of doing things, like throwing it in there, not just because.
Mhm.
There's a reason for it.
He wants us to talk about that.
Right. And he wants us to probably think from that point after, like, this kid is more special than what we really probably are thinking that he is. He's just a normal kid. He doesn't have, I'm not saying he can, like, you know, turn water into wine or walk on water, but he's a good guy.
He's a good guy, and he cares about being a good guy, and he shows
A lot.
compassion. He shows compassion in every circumstance.
Yeah.
Every
Yeah.
time his dad runs into somebody, his dad has to protect them. The first thing is the kid wants to protect that person. Like with the little boy, he worries about whether there's a little boy that they can help,
Mm-hmm.
or he wants to feed the person, or the one person that stole their stuff, and the father leaves them naked, takes all the stuff. You know, he wants to make sure that kid gets help back. So even growing up in this hell, this kid does have a fire. He does have compassion in him, unending.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think that's
Yeah.
has to be a big part of what his message is to us.
Oh, no, without a doubt. And the transformation the boy goes from being this sort of scared little kid to, by the end of it, he can pretty much handle just about anything. Is it seems so short, but in terms of what they're going through in the book, I think it's years or something like
It
that.
is years. Well, that's funny. Not until the third time I read it did I realize at one point in the book he said, this is the point of the boy's life where he'd usually be splitting from his father. So the boy,
Yeah.
where I think the first time I read it, I looked at him as like 6 years old the whole way through. Now I'm realizing that the boy at the end of the book, that is, I don't think we should give away the end, but
No.
I think the boy at the end of the book is probably around 16. My guess.
I would, yeah. But I think at the beginning, though, he probably starts off as a 6-year-old.
He lived his. Let's go to that point.
Sure.
And you're bringing up. You keep bringing on next thing is at one point, and I might have to read this quote, but the dad says, "I must be an alien to him."
Yeah.
Let's see this.
Yeah.
In 153, I'll read that real quick, and then.
Okay. If you have the book at home, follow along.
That's right. Page 153. It says, when I woke again, he thought the rain had stopped, but that wasn't what woke him. He'd been visited in a dream by creatures of a kind he'd never seen before. They did not speak. He thought that they'd been crouching by his side of his cot as he slept, and then had skulked away on his awakening. He turned and looked at the boy. Maybe he understood for the first time that to the boy, he himself was an alien, a being from another planet that no longer existed, the tales of which were suspect. He could not construct for the child's pleasure the world he'd lost without constructing the loss as well, and and he thought perhaps the child had known this better than he. He tried to remember the dream, but he could not. All that was left was the feeling of it. He thought perhaps they'd come to warn him of what? That he could not enkindle in the heart of the child what was ashes in his own. Even now, some part of him wished they'd never found this refuge. Some part of him always wished it to be over. I mean,
yeah.
So he's pretty much saying this boy has grown up in this hell, and I'm telling him stories of an alien planet,
right,
that he's never going to see.
Nope.
Never going to see.
Nope.
And so it seems like, you know, the boys listening would suspect, like, really, did they have TVs or radio? It's things that he can't imagine.
Who is Mavis Staples? Mavis Staples was a thing. Like,
right.
The kid doesn't even know music.
Mm-hmm.
Like that, you know.
He doesn't even know a dog.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
And there's I had read before we got on the Coca-Cola scene. The first time the kid has a sip of Coca-Cola, and I mean, you think of how many times all of us have taken it for granted, and then when you don't have it and you finally find one, and you haven't had really sugar in forever,
right?
And then you finally have it.
Mm-hmm.
And Cormac does a great job
of describing
that.
Yeah.
He does a great job of just sort of like, and it's not done in like a pretentious way.
No.
It's done really in like you can really get it. You can really feel it. The fizz
like,
going down your esophagus.
Like what he's saying, even though there's points in the book where they get maybe a little refuge, like, you know, they might find some food and they might get to take a rest in some warmth, because this world is cold and dark, no sun, and just cold. And that's why he says at the end of that quote, he says, should I even explain this world to my kid? Because he's never going to see it. It's not going to come back. And two, I'm almost upset that we got this break, because life is hell. We might never get this break again.
Right.
It's giving him hope where there is no hope. I mean, that's pretty much the whole book is, there's no hope. The world is done for.
Yeah. There's nobody. Like, and the boy keeps asking, are there other people like us? Are there other good guys? And Papa just doesn't know how to answer that, and answers it the best he can, but because he's trying to ease a little boy's mind. But
people alive, and just the people they haven't read, are out there to eat each other. I mean, if there's no other animals to eat, and if you can't find canned goods, really it's cannibalism. You know? Can you blame them? I mean, really, that's the funny thing about Cormac McCarthy is, not funny thing, he's showing the truth. These people are animals, they have to eat each other, but at the same time, it's almost like even the humane would be at that point, don't you think? If you have to survive.
I mean, if you got to survive, and it's what are you gonna do? What are you gonna do? I'm not neither one of us are condoning cannibalism.
No.
But like,
there's
if you're
no
left with
other
choice, watch the movie Alive. Read that story of the Argentinian soccer team. You know, like when you don't have a choice, what other option do you have?
Like, God, there's a scene in the book that just is like shocking. Remember when they follow 3 people into the woods and they chase them off, and on the spigot over the fire is infant baby.
Yeah. Yep.
You know, and you're just like, oh my God, and the anger and grotesque that comes, you're just like, how could they? And then you're like, wait a minute, there's literally nothing else. They might be getting pregnant just to do that, just to have a meal.
Yeah, maybe. And that's, I mean, and I equal parts like that and don't like that, but because like I would never, I could never do that, but like that's not that far removed from where we're at in this world that Cormac has created. Like, that could totally happen. Yeah. And that's probably why they had that kid. Yeah.
Of course, right. That's what, I'm sure.
But then the beauty of that is like Papa just keeps pounding it home, like we're the good guys.
Good guys.
No, we're not going to eat people. We don't eat people. We're the good guys. Mm-hmm. And he keeps driving that home.
And he's believed it his whole life. I think that's the coolest part about the book is the hope lies within their relationship. You know, it's really cool. The first thing I noticed was, and it wasn't until the second time reading it again, when they lay down for bed every night, Cormac McCarthy makes it a point to talk about how they lay down for bed and he puts his arms on the boy. He wraps his arms around every night. And this isn't just like one or twice, 2 times in the book. Cormac McCarthy talks about them laying down for bed and he will feel the boy's heartbeat or feel the warmth of the boy. And it's always this just reassurance that he is with me. And that is all life is for, because he gives you the pure hopelessness. There is not a light at the end of the tunnel. There is no over the rainbow. This is, what are you living for day by day? And it's this.
And all they have are each other. And that's the one of the beauties of the story itself is like all they have are each other. And they have nobody else. And then their thoughts. And it's like, ugh.
In dreams. And they go back to their dreams.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, their dreams, especially.
I think here's one point that brings that out is the man watched his son. He says, real life is pretty bad, question mark. And then the son says, what do you think? Well, I think we're still here. A lot of bad things have happened, but we're still here. And the boy says, yeah. You don't think that's so great? It's okay. That's it. What is life worth living for? I mean, that's if it's just, you know, no real pleasure, but that's what
Yeah,
that's the truth is
literally none. None.
none. And
None.
the
And the
father's like,
only
well, I still got you. What, isn't that good enough? And he's like, I guess
it's
all
all right. Yeah, yeah, but it's true, right? I mean, if you think about it, you have nothing, but then they get like these little glimpses, right, of what it used to be like with the Coca-Cola. You know,
yes.
you get the glimpse of hope, but then it like immediately the next page, it's all taken
Dark.
away from you.
You
Yeah,
know, and one of
you
the
go
other
back to
things,
reality.
the father is living also with the guilt thing too. The father is living with the guilt that they present earlier in the book that the mother gives him. Do you want to go into that, or do you remember
Sure.
the mother? The mother says, I think the quote that really identifies it is, the mother says, "Death is a lover." Quote. But what is the mother? Tell me about the mother and what happens with her.
I don't know what exactly happened with the mother. It seemed like what happened is all this went down, right? Clock stops at 1:17.
Mm-hmm.
She's pregnant, and then now the two of them, the father and the mother, have to go off on their own,
Right.
with her pregnant and figure this all out.
But then there's a point in the book. Let me see if I wrote down the page 55. So it gives you a little bit where it says like they've been on the road for a while. She actually went with them for a little bit.
Yeah.
And she's on them and she's had enough. She sees what we've been talking about this whole time. There's no hope.
Desolation.
Miserable desolation. It's cold. It's dark. People are, and we didn't mention this, Moose, but right after whatever the event is that happens, there were death cults, blood cults, I think he calls them.
Right.
I mean, the world of survivors, quote unquote, is mad, is as you could expect, is crazy. So she's probably still living during that period when it's at its worst, whereas most of the book is under a period where most people, this is years gone by, maybe 10 years after the mother dies, and most people are dead. But she's alive during probably the aftermath where people are still dealing with it, moving on, and she decides that I'm going to kill myself. I'm going to take this pistol. I'm going to take the pistol, and we should all do it. This is the time to do it. You know, let's just get it over with. And the dad's like, "No, me and the boy we're going to do this." And she's like, "You're being selfish." You know, pretty much. You know this. And so I think he lives with that.
Well, do we know how old because we don't know their ages, but do we have like a roundabout ballpark on how old that kid might have been when
I'm thinking he was an infant. I'm thinking he's probably a toddler or an infant. You know, I'm guessing.
So mom is so they're going through this whole world. She's seeing it. She's seeing the world. She knew what it was, and now she's living through it, totally collapsing.
How can I bring a kid up in this world?
How can you ask me to do that? And I mean, you feel bad that, I mean, when I read it, I felt bad that she felt that way.
But it's real.
But it's 100% real.
Right?
100%. Like, you're seeing all this, and nobody has a crystal ball. Nobody knows what's going to happen a year from where they're at. But, I mean, it ain't like, the train's going to come at, 2:00 and everything's going to Polar Express us away to, the North Pole with Tom Hanks.
Or from what it seems, there is no part of the earth that was untouched. Like, hey, if we
Right.
can all get there, we'll be okay. That's not
Right.
the situation in this book.
No.
He knows that. And just like the quote I just gave before, the dad's like, hey, we're survived. Isn't that cool? And even the boy that doesn't even know the better earth,
Yeah.
better life, he's just like, it's okay. Like, I don't even know better, and this is bad. So the mother, yeah, I mean, she had some points. Like, why are you doing? She said to the dad, why are you doing this? You know, and he's just like, you know, I got to keep going. My boy, he's my boy, you know, and I see that obviously.
Well, and you
see that point too, but
you gotta try, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
Like, so as dark as it is, like, this is sort of a meditation on life. Isn't that what the back of the book said too?
Yep.
It's sort of like, no matter how dark your life gets,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm not saying if you're super depressed you should read this book. Just go get some help. This book's not going to help you, but it's probably going to make things worse.
Mm-hmm.
But it's sort of like, no matter how dark it gets, you got to at least try to keep going forward.
Yep.
I mean, and that small little thing for somebody like me is, I've just found that to be very inspiring or something like that. Very poignant.
I think you're exactly right. I think at the end of when I close that book, I'm not depressed. I'm not. I mean, the book is depressing. It is I mean, it is literally a book where there's very little hope. But when I close it, you're right, Moose.
Right, but when you close it though, you feel like, okay, it's not that bad.
You're content.
Yeah,
I agree.
And we can't give away the ending, but
no, I don't want to. Yeah, I've gone back and forth. I've gone back and forth with this, you know, and like giving people the ending and not. And I think there's so much you can talk about without giving it away, you know, with a lot of these books. Yeah, and just let people do it. You know, I think one of the cool things, the best books, the ending doesn't matter. I learned that with literature.
Yeah, you know? Or sometimes even your best books, like if you read On the Road by Kerouac, the forlorn rags, right? The last paragraph of the prose of that book just gives you goosebumps, right? And this does it too. Like, with
so
this,
funny.
It's like,
I want to cut
the
you
ending
off.
doesn't matter.
Yeah, On the Road was probably one of the first books that got me into literature. That's funny you brought that up. I remember I was a senior in high school, maybe junior in high school. That's so funny you brought up that book. That book just changed me to look at books differently. I mean, I read books about the Beatles, and I read books, cool. But the first book to really say that books can touch you real deep in here, and that was On the Road. That's awesome.
I didn't read that until way later. Not way later, but late 20s. But reading in general, like, that's just been a part of my life for as long as I can even really remember. I've gone in periods where I haven't read at all.
Sure.
But
got to
these past like, I don't know, 10, 15 years, just picking up a book and reading it. I mean, I stole The Road from my mom.
Nice.
And
that's awesome.
I told her, but
still, that's great.
Stole it off her back porch. I'm like, I'm going to read this. And I took it, and I'm not going to give it back. I'm going to keep it until somebody else wants to read it or whatever.
Pass it along. Well, you hit the point. One last thing. And again, I don't know the answer to this because it's more Cormac McCarthy. He says at the end of the book, and we're not giving the way here. We're not giving the book away. But he talks about mountain streams. He's looking at these mountain streams and these trout, these colorful trout that obviously no longer exist. But he's remembering these trout with these amazing colorful designs on their back, like maps of the world, essentially.
Yeah.
What do you think that meant for closure? What do you honestly? I don't know. I don't have an answer to this one. What do you think? What do you think the whole thing? Why did he throw that in there? when you
you
say,
gotta find color in the darkest of time, right? So like we have gone when I'm reading the book, I feel like it could just be like a grayscale
Mhm.
landscape throughout the entire book.
Right.
They talk about the soot, the way the guy cried, and it left streaks
And they wear
because his
face
face was
masks.
so dirty.
They wear
Yeah,
face masks everywhere they go.
yeah.
That's another thing I thought was
Speaking
really
of
cool
which,
about with who thought we would have to live like that for the,
yeah,
yeah.
because you
But yeah,
couldn't breathe in the ash,
right.
and
That's probably what caused this cough. Keep going.
so at the end we've gone through this whole man just life changing story, and you have no hope, but your only hope is
You're right.
you know the
The
color of the
gorgeous,
trout.
the color of what it was, what can
Yeah,
be. I think you're right. I think maybe it means this existed once. Not saying it can probably again. This gorgeousness that maybe too was taken for granted, and we take for granted.
that and you know, like if we think of it in terms of not now 2020 but now just in life in general,
Mhm.
right? um you could say that the end of the book is more of, as cliche as it might sound, stop and smell the roses.
No, I think you're right.
Take a minute for yourself to just stop and look around you,
I agree.
and it,
And
it
I
might be a little better than what it was
and
10
I
minutes
think I was looking trying to figure out what's he trying to tell us, but I think you're exactly right. Is that the not just the mountain stream and take it, but the look at the trout and look at the designs on the trout, things that you may have never noticed before, man, because they all could be gone, and they really could. That's
well,
scary.
and you're an alien in this foreign land, because the way you knew it, it
Right.
was full of color, and you had blue skies, you didn't have gray. You had
Mhm.
blue oceans, not gray.
Instead of
And you
mush. Yeah.
had ships that sailed the sea that just weren't parked there. You know, you
Right.
didn't have dead bodies in your road. You had people walking them or riding on them on a bike. Like, so it's all just sort of just, take a second. I think he's, in the end, he's trying to say, and I don't know, I've never met Cormac McCarthy, never met him, probably never will. I don't even know if he's alive, and I don't really
He is.
care.
Yeah.
We'll never meet, but I don't know if he meant this, but it's just sort of like, just take a minute. And it seems like that's a theme.
No,
I
Moose.
mean, I've only
That
read
is. Have you read many
all
of his
the
books?
all the Pretty Horses I just got through,
Okay.
and it
That's a good
just
book.
seems like
You
there's.
read No Country for Old Men or seen the movie?
I've seen the movie.
Okay.
Yeah,
This is, let me just put you in the epitome of his books, is the scene where the coin toss. Remember that coin toss?
of course. Yeah,
Yes. That is Cormac McCarthy's books in essence. I truly believe that. Is saying, listen, everything you've done up to this point led you to this coin toss. And that guy says, heads, you're going to live, tails, you're going to lose. Think of every action you've taken your whole life to lead you to this one coin toss. Well, guess what? That's all our lives. Our
yeah,
action, every action we take in our life leads us to that death. And that's not
pretty much.
the coin toss is just the literate the the example, the
A writer's example,
a writer's example to show that, hey,
a
our whole
metaphor.
lives
Yeah,
leads to this death. And um and he shows it in that book. He says, it's, heads you win, heads you live, tails you die. And that's Cormac McCarthy's books. You're going to get a lot of that. He is looking at life as just saying it's fragile, and don't take it for granted, because at any moment it can be taken away from you. And No Country for Old Men is very good because he's got many of those metaphors throughout that book, especially at the end. So if you haven't read that one, read that one. But
yeah,
um,
it's on the list.
but that's his big message, and you nailed it in the head. Yeah, that's right. I think that, and it's funny. That's why I love these conversations, is because you taught that to me just now. I mean, even though I knew that was more Cormac McCarthy's thing, it took me to see that trout is pretty much saying, "Hey, this is the beauty of the earth, and we take it for granted."
I mean, and it could be, it could not be, but it seems like it.
No, it is.
Because if
It
we're
was.
reading the back, right, of whatever
Mhm.
the back of the book,
Mhm.
it's a meditation on life's hopelessness or whatever. I don't know what they
Mhm.
said specifically, but
Right.
like if you take if you read the book in context of not even your own reality, but just like life now, it's more of a metaphor to tell you, you know, don't take it for granted, because you know politicians could get really upset and we could start lighting off nukes
Right.
and we could all be in this position
Yep.
if it was a nuclear bomb, right?
Just like
So
pandemics, they'd say, "Oh, I never saw it coming."
well, right, but you knew about it since November and you
Right.
saw it coming. I mean,
Right.
we've been hearing about it for 10 years. That's why this was a great book to read too, for this time, this literal time right
I
now.
agree. It makes you
Because
show we don't have it as bad as it could be.
no, but it also makes you realize it could I
Could
mean,
get
if it
worse.
wanted to get worse,
It gets worse quick.
it could
Yeah.
in a heartbeat, you
Yes.
know.
In a heartbeat. Yes.
So
Things change on a dime. You're exactly
they
right.
do.
All right. So I just want to say thank you, Moose. Next week, I got this book, which I'm reading right now. I've never read it before. Savage Inequalities. My buddy said to read it. It is, I'm about third through. It's really interesting. So we'll see next week what this is all about. But Moose, great conversation. I loved having you. You're awesome. Thank you so
Yeah.
much.
Thanks for having me on, man. This is awesome.
Yeah, we'll
I
do it
love
again.
this.
You'll be back.
I would love, yeah, I would love to. I'm currently reading Working Stiff by Julie Melanik, who is a medical examiner in New York in
Nice.
2001, 2003. So it's all dead bodies, and it is
Nice.
fantastic.
Oh, well, maybe we'll do
Yeah.
that one. All right.
Pleasant,
Thanks, Moose.
lots of pleasant dreams. All right. Thank you, Mike.
Thank you. Take care, Moose.
You too.
See ya.